there, this is Nick from Income Digs. Welcome to this video tutorial. We are digging into QuickBooks Online today, and we're going to talk about a topic that most of us use in QuickBooks Online, but a lot of us don't understand quite completely. All right, and that is the banking feed within QuickBooks Online. Arguably one of the best features of QuickBooks is that we're able to link our online bank accounts or credit cards to our accounting system. And it's a really huge time saver, and it really helps us to reconcile the balances of those accounts. However, I'm finding that it's really misunderstood as far as how to best utilize it. It's a really great tool, so I just want to talk about how we can use it today, make sure we're not making any of the obvious mistakes that can be made with it. All right, so join me over here in QuickBooks Online, and I am going to demonstrate how to add an account and then some of the tips and tricks on how to use it. You can see in QuickBooks right now, I have a couple of accounts set up, okay? I have my ID property management account and I have my credit card. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is our bank balance versus our QuickBooks balance. It's okay and common for these balances to not equal each other. The reason that they're displayed here is to show us that we have work to be done, okay? So right now, I'm looking at this ID property management account, and it's showing that my bank has a value of $1,416.80. And I want you to think of the bank balance as the truth, okay? We know that that bank balance is almost definitely accurate as of this point in time, okay? As long as we've updated our accounts, that's going to be accurate. My QuickBooks balance here is showing me what I have in my accounting books. And again, that's not always going to be accurate because I have work to do. Note here that I have 13 transactions to process. So ideally, when I process these transactions, in theory, this should get closer to this bank balance. Now, it's not always 100% because timing is an issue too. You're going to see as I demonstrate here, sometimes we're going to add things in QuickBooks kind of ahead of time. That's going to throw off that balance, but that's okay. It's always going to catch itself up as we clear and eventually reconcile transactions. Okay, but first I want to start by adding an account. Okay, so if you are just getting started with QuickBooks Online, or maybe you have everything else working but you haven't linked bank accounts yet, let's do that together. Okay, so I'm going to click Link Bank Account. And just about every online banking system should work for this. Of course, there's still some that quite aren't up to speed, but most should work. So I have this one with Northwest Bank. Okay, so I'm going to set this up. And I just need to provide a user ID and password. So I'm going to copy and paste this from my other screen. So I just provided my username and password. Almost always there's going to be some kind of third-party authentication. They might do a text message to get to confirm as well. So I'm going to click this, and that's exactly what's happening. It's saying, hey, we need to confirm that this is actually you, so they're going to send me a text message. All right, and I just got that text message. I'm going to enter the code 720645. All right, so now this is the stage where hopefully everything links, and it's very common as well that in this online banking setup, maybe I have more than one checking account or more than one bank account, and so it's going to ask us which one or ones we want to link. Okay, so if you're logging in, potentially you have multiple credit cards on one sign-in or multiple bank accounts on one sign-in, QuickBooks will give you that opportunity to link the right one. And that's what's happening right now. I have all these different accounts, and it's asking me which one do you want to link. And I'm going to link just this OpEx one right here. And here's where, if you've already set up a bank account, you can link it. Okay, so if I click this down arrow, it's going to show the bank accounts that I have. Now, this is something that QuickBooks has gotten a little strict on. Okay, so in the past, you can almost pick any kind of account, but what it's doing, it's recognizing that this OpEx account is a bank account. It's only showing me my bank accounts here. And similarly, if this was a credit card, it would only show me my credit cards, okay? So that's all I have here. Now, if you think that this account should be something else that's not listed here, you can add new and you can move it over eventually. I'm gonna add new right now. I'm gonna add a brand new account, okay? And I'm gonna call it a bank account. The detail type is a checking account, and I'm just gonna call it OpEx, operating expenses. So I'll save and close. Okay, so that's ready to go. I could add the other ones too if I want. I'm not going to right now. Now here's a crucially important part of setting up your link, okay? QuickBooks is going to try to find a bunch of transactions, and it's asking you right now, how far back should we go to find these transactions? And it's going to try, in this case, to find last year, okay? Now when it does this, typically what happens, we're going to test this, is QuickBooks is going to create a transaction that bugs the heck out of users of QuickBooks Online, and that is an opening balance entry. Now, it serves a purpose, but a lot of people get confused as how the heck it got there. So I'm going to talk through that. We're going to make sure we know what that means. All right, so it's grabbing a bunch of these transactions. And I don't know if it's going to be able to go back the whole year, but we'll check. All right, so I'm going to get out of this. I could click this. Will probably bring me to where I'm going to go anyways, but I'm just going to click the X button and see this in my banking feed. And there it is, okay? So there's my OpEx account. Now it's showing $39,878 is the bank balance, and it's showing a QuickBooks balance of $29,159. And this is what I'm talking about with QuickBooks adding a transaction. So you might be wondering, how the heck, this brand new account that I just created, how does it have a QuickBooks balance? Where does that come from? And that comes from, if we go to our bank register, QuickBooks is going to automatically create this one transaction. And it's pretty much saying, we were able to find transactions all the way back to 8/16/2021. Notice how it did not find transactions all the way back to January 2021, which is kind of common. It's rare that your banking feed is going to provide all that information to QuickBooks, okay? You might have to add that stuff manually, which is okay. So it says that it found information all the way back to 8/16. So as of 8/16, it's providing me with an opening balance. So QuickBooks is reading from the bank account that as of 8/16, the last date that we found transactions, the balance of this account was $29,159. Now, that might be accurate, and that might be useful to me, but I'm probably going to be going through an exercise where I'm going to be adding more transactions in the past, okay? Now, QuickBooks is giving me everything from August, but maybe I'm at a point, here I'm recording this in 2022, early 2022, I might want to go back and add all transactions from 2021, which I'm going to need to do either by manually adding them, or maybe I'm doing an upload of them. Okay, so I'm probably going to be going back further than this. And so what I encourage you to do with this, I think the best thing to do with this, what I like to do with this, is actually remove it and delete it. Or you can edit it and save it for later. But I find that almost always my users, my students, are going to be going further back and having a completely different balance. And so I'm almost always deleting this. Now you're going to get this warning from QuickBooks that you're deleting something that's been reconciled. Don't worry about it. We have a lot of work to do with this bank account, so there's plenty of things for us to do. So once I do that, my QuickBooks balance goes to 0. So if I go back to my bank register, you can see that my QuickBooks balance is 0. My bank balance is $39,000. If I were to go through all of these 256 transactions, it's probably still unlikely that my QuickBooks balance will equal my bank balance. Why is that? Well, I just deleted the opening balance entry, and these 256 transactions is certainly not the entire story of this bank account. It probably started way longer ago. So I'm going to need some kind of opening balance equity at some point to give it a starting point. Okay? And that is a video that I have separately, so check out the opening balance equity video if you want to see exactly how to do that. We talk about that in great detail. We also talk about that a lot in our course, Real Estate Accounting Bootcamp. But what I want to get through now is the different ways to add and accept transactions within the bank feed. Okay? This is a lot of time-saving work that we can do here. So the first and probably most obvious way to add transactions within the banking feed here is to simply look at what's going on and categorize, okay? So I can take a transaction and I can categorize it relatively easily, okay? So let me take something like this, Verizon, okay? So this happens to be for internet services, okay? So I can click into this right here, and with the categorize button selected, I can find the vendor, I can change that if it's not accurate, and I can categorize this. Now this is gonna be something like, I don't know if I have internet as a category here. Let's see. Internet. No, I don't. So this would be more like office supplies and software is fine for now. Okay. If you're using classes, go ahead and use it. This would be something to me that would be more of a general, not specific to a property. Okay. So I'm going to write general right there. Okay, and so this is probably the most conventional way to add transactions, and this is probably the way that you're used to. You click the categorize button, you click add. What the add button does here is it does two things. This is really essential to understanding how this whole thing works. One, it adds the transaction to QuickBooks. So right now my bank balance is 0. After I add this transaction, my bank balance is going to go to negative $39.99, okay? I'm starting to add QuickBooks transactions. The second thing that it's going to do within this exact same action, create the QuickBooks transaction and link it to the online banking transaction. So I'm going to click Add right here. Okay, so that transaction's been categorized, and you can see that my QuickBooks balance has now gone down to negative $39.99. It's actually going further away from the bank balance. That's okay. Let's do some more transactions. Let's say that this right here, this 15,000 positive, let's say that that's me investing in the business, okay? So again, I'm going to categorize that. That's me, maybe I'm providing some cash to the business, okay? So what I can do there is I can say that the money came from myself. The category is going to be owner's equity, owner's investment of some sort, okay? That's also going to be general. All right, so I can add that one. And hopefully we're going to see the balance start increasing a little bit, okay? It's going to go up and down and all around as you add these transactions. What's important is you start to categorize this, and this is saving you a bunch of time because adding that exact transaction, the two that I just did, would take at least 2 times, maybe 3 times as long if I were to go create a new expense and create a new deposit. All right, so it's saving us a ton of time, okay? So it's starting to kind of take shape. Now, adding or categorizing is kind of the most common way to add those transactions. Now, where do those transactions go? Once they leave here, I've categorized them, they're gonna show up in the Categorize tab here. So if I click this tab, it's gonna show me everything that I've already categorized. So if you kind of make a mistake or if you wanna look at something again, you can always see what has happened here. And when I say that QuickBooks has created the transaction, this hyperlink here shows me exactly what it created. So for that $39.99 to Verizon, it's created an expense. For that $15,000, it created a deposit. If I click on that hyperlink, it's the equivalent to as if I were to go in and create a new expense for Verizon for office supplies for $39.99, and notice right here that online banking transaction. So it's one transaction that is linked. Okay, and that's essential to remember because I'm going to show you in a second here how we can proactively create transactions and QuickBooks will link them without adding them, meaning we don't always need to add transactions. Okay, so those transactions have been added and categorized. Great. Okay, now let's do a few others. So another thing that you might be doing, especially if you are following my products and services method, okay, if you're following my products and services method, you might be doing transactions ahead of time where you're using the products and services as opposed to categories. So one deficit of the online banking feed, unfortunately, when I click into this, there's nowhere, even if I click categorize, there's nowhere for me to put products and services. So unfortunately, at this point in time, the only way to add expenses that go to products and services is to manually enter them, okay? And what happens a lot is we see that and we think, well, what the heck? I'm gonna manually create them, but what do I do with this transaction here? Do I exclude it? I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that. So I'm gonna record this transaction right now manually. So the way that you do this, you would need some kind of system or process where if you're using products and services, you need to create them separately and then match them here. So you can either do that with a receipts flow where receipts come in and you or your bookkeeper add them manually, or you can wait for them to come in and then know that you have to create them. So I'm going to create this transaction. I'm going to create an expense. All right, and this is to, I think that plumber, but I'll just use a different plumber for now. Now, what account did it come from? It's essential that this is equal to the account that it actually came from. What's the date of that transaction? And then here's where I'm talking about using products and services. So here I'm using rough plumbing, and I have 1 times 2977.23, and this one might be to a specific property. Okay, so I'm doing stuff here that I can't do from the banking feed. Now, when I save and close this, here's where, again, we get confused a lot where we think, I don't want to double enter this, right? I don't want to enter it again. Notice my QuickBooks balance changed when I did that, and this transaction turned green. And now when I click into this, notice how QuickBooks is suggesting I match it as opposed to categorizing it. This is very, very important. The expense already exists. QuickBooks has recognized that the amount of an existing expense matches exactly this expense coming through, and it's suggesting that we match it. And I'll tell you that almost all the time it's correct. If I were to categorize this, then I'm going to have a duplicate, meaning I'm going to have 2 transactions for $29.77.23. I know that that's not the case. I just have one. So I am going to accept the suggest and find match. What a lot of folks do is they'll actually take this and say, hey, it's already in QuickBooks, let's exclude it. Do not do that. That is not the right way to do it. You want to keep as many of the bank transactions linked to QuickBooks as possible. It helps to keep things accurate. So don't exclude it. Instead, make the transaction manually and then match it. I'm going to match it right here. Matching does takes one step out. Okay? It matches it to the QuickBooks transaction to the online banking transaction, but doesn't create a new one, which is exactly what we don't want to happen. We don't want it to create a new one. The transaction already exists in our books. Okay? So notice here it says match to as opposed to added to. All right? We've taken care of the online banking transaction. We checked the box that it's done and taken care of. It reduced down from our list, and it's been matched. Okay? So that's the first thing to remember. Now, the other reason we would almost always be adding transactions ahead of time is when we buy property or sell property, okay? So when we buy or sell property, we're almost always using journal entries to record the final closing, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this $13,933 that we see right here, okay? And I'm going to pretend that we actually bought a property. Okay, when we buy a property, we're going to have a relatively complex journal entry, and one of the lines of that journal entry is going to be our cash due at closing. So a lot of people get confused, and they'll come into this transaction and know that, hey, that's the wire that I sent to buy that property. So they'll click into this, and then they'll try to do something with it where they're maybe categorizing it as building. Okay, maybe they're saying, well, it was to buy the building. Okay, or maybe they're going to put it as closing costs. Do not do that, okay? This is another case where we cannot add all the detail we need to add from the banking feed, okay? I would tell you that about 80% of the transactions we can, but this, the purchase of property, we're gonna wanna do that proactively with a journal entry and then come back to match it, okay? So I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that. All right, so let's add a relatively simple property purchase as a journal entry. And again, you're gonna do this as soon as you get the closing statement. Okay, so I'm going to do this as 2/8/2022. And let's say that I bought a building for $125,000. And maybe I'm differentiating the building and the land, which again, if you have questions about that, we have plenty of videos on that. We talk about it in depth in our course as well. So I'm differentiating land and building. Okay, let's say that I got a loan for this as well for, let's say maybe, well, actually, I'll do the loans separate. Bear with me, I'm just making up a kind of fake transaction here. Okay, so let's say that we had some closing costs. Okay, of $6,500. All right, now I'm gonna do my loan. And my loan is gonna be, let's say I get a loan for $142,567. I did that just so the numbers will hopefully work out. And then that means that from my OpEx, from my checking account, I wrote a check for $13,933 due at closing. Okay, you can put your class here if it matters, if you're using class tracking. So here's where I'm adding more detail than is possible to add in the banking feed. I'm adding the property information, I'm adding the loan that I got, and then here's the cash at closing. And putting that description there, cash at closing. What I love about this method is it forces us to confirm that our amounts are accurate. So if our HUD says it's $13,933, great. Let's save and close this. All right. And here, just like we did with that products and services, and my amounts are wrong, so let me go to that register and fix that. $19,933. Okay, that could be fine. So sometimes $13,933. Okay, so sometimes QuickBooks doesn't find it right away. So let me click Find Match. And there it is. Okay, so all that was happening there is it didn't turn green. Not a big deal. Here's our little trick there. It didn't turn green and show me that it found it, okay? But you know you've entered it. You know you've entered it right. You saw me second guessing that for a second there. If you click Find Match, it's going to go and search a little bit harder, and it's going to find, hopefully, the journal entry that you've recorded. So I'm going to go ahead and, select that, and I'm going to click the Save button, and it's going to do exactly what we did with that products and services transaction. Okay, if I go to my categorized list here, we can see that 13,933 was also matched. Okay, so this matching is very, very helpful. A few other ways that you can use matching. Okay, let's say that we, instead of recording an expense for a subcontractor, maybe we had a bill for a subcontractor. Okay, so I'm going to pick this 142841. Okay, as of 131 was the date of that. Okay, now you might be using bills. Okay, I encourage you to use bills. I think it's a great way to manage cash flow. So if I have a bill, let's use that same plumber. Okay, now the bill date might be 1/1/2022, and the terms might be net 30. Okay, my category here is going to be this, the same rough plumbing. Okay, here I'm going to do the amount of this bill is 1428.41. Okay, maybe we have a class there as well. All right, so here's one bill, and I can save and close that. So that's going to be in my accounts payable, okay, and I'm going to have to pay that at some point in time. But QuickBooks will also guess bill payments, okay? So I have an outstanding balance for a vendor. It sees a transaction come through for the exact amount of that payment, okay? And it's suggesting I match that. Now, when I match that, what it's going to do is create a bill payment and match the transaction to the bill payment. So I'm going to go to Categorized here. It added the bill payment and linked it. So I can click on this bill payment, and there's the online banking match. All right, so that's another awesome way to do it. Same thing happens with receiving income, okay? So let's say that we have an outstanding invoice for $38,584.81. Okay, it's a big invoice, but let's say that we have that outstanding. So let's do an invoice. Not sure who my customers are here, but let's see. I think we got Bernie is in here. All right, we have the invoice date. Maybe we're giving Bernie 30 days. Yeah, we'd probably have something like residential remodeling if that's what we're doing, or maybe rent. We could just do rent. I know it's a big amount, but let's just do rent for now. $38,584.81. So now I could manually record the payment I received from Bernie. I could manually go in and do that, or I can let it QuickBooks guess. Okay, so I have that outstanding invoice, that payment comes through, and just like it did for the bill payment, it's going to record this as a invoice payment. All right, so things are looking pretty good, right? Okay, so the next thing I want to demonstrate is that the match can be more than one transaction as well. Okay, so I'm going to take this 14,000. So let's say on 2/3 we have 14,000, right? Now let's assume that instead of having one bill for 14,000, maybe I have a couple. So I'm going to create a couple bills. Again, to Modern Plumbing. Okay, let's say that, yeah, we had some plumbing that was done for $6,500. Okay, I'm going to save that. And then let's say that I had another bill for the same vendor. Another bill, same vendor. And here, it was $7,500, and maybe it was for a different property. Okay, so I have two outstanding bills for this person. Okay, now let's just see what that looks like in accounts payable for a second. So if I were to go to my dashboard, I don't have this saved here, so let's just go then to Let's go to vendors, and we should show an open balance for that vendor. So Modern Plumbing shows $14,000. So if I click on Modern Plumbing, we see the outstanding bills. I could record a bill payment right here, okay? Or I can take that $14,000 that was paid. Now the match is not suggesting because it doesn't find an outstanding single bill for $14,000. But I can click into this, click Find Match, and here it will bring up all the transactions for Modern Plumbing, and I can select both of them to go toward this $14,000 and save that. Okay, so you can see that the banking transaction functionality is not all about categorizing. I will say that the majority of your transactions are going to be categorized, meaning you're simply going to come in here and indicate to QuickBooks what is going on, okay? But many are going to be matches as well. So I recommend that you get into doing the matching. It's really a good practice to do things proactively. It's kind of like a double check on your books. You create transactions, whether it's because they are complex, meaning it's a journal entry for the purchase or sale of property, or it's because we want to use the products and services, or it's because we're managing on an accrual basis, meaning we are expecting income through invoices, or we're expecting to pay bills through bills, okay? You can add those as well and then find the match. Now you're going to notice a couple other transaction types here. You can record a transfer, or you can record a credit card payment. These are really simple. They're pretty much the same thing as categorize, but they're just a little bit quicker. Okay, so if you were to make, say, a credit card payment, you can go, here, this $10,000 was a credit card payment. You can click this record as credit card payment, and then QuickBooks is just going to ask, okay, well, what credit card did you pay? And you're going to select the credit card that you paid and add it. Notice, though, that it does not give me a field for class, nor if we were using location tracking, it would not give me a field for location. Keep that in mind if those are the things you want to track. Transfer does the same thing. So if I were to transfer this to another bank, I could simply go here, record transfer, and then I could pick up my other bank account. So these are just quicker ways of doing categorize, but notice that they do not have the added fields that you might need. I'm using almost exclusively categorize and find match, okay, because I want those other fields available to me. Okay, so that is hopefully a demystifying tutorial on how to link your bank accounts. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do when you bring in a bank account from previous time. If you need to re-add that open balance equity, very, very simple to do. Again, I have a video on it, but just to show you what we do, is simply decide the date and time that open balance should be true. So maybe in my case, it'd be 1/1/2021. Bring up that bank account, whatever it is, and say, as of this date, it had a value of $20,000, and we're just going to simply offset that with our open balance equity. Okay, nice and easy. And that's going to establish that opening balance. Now, if you're going to go back and record every single transaction that has ever existed with this bank account, then you have no need to do that, right? There's no need to do that at all. Every transaction is going to make it up. But more often than not, we have a bank account that's way older than our QuickBooks Online account, so we need to use that open balance equity. All right, there's a lot more to get into with this stuff, so I expect plenty of questions and comments. Throw them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer those. And we have plenty of other resources on this. Check out the other videos I recommended. Also check out our end-to-end course, Real Estate Accounting Bootcamp. We go into this in even more detail and talk through other scenarios. It's available at our website, incomedigs.com. All right, until next time, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.